One.
There we go. There we go. Again, like we said, got to get a little bit of wood.
Exactly. You get
Fishing,
around wood.
Maine, bass fishing. Stay tuned. It's going to be a foggy one, or it's going to be a good one. Bring that little boy in here for me. Come here, come here. Oh! Woo!
Another feisty one.
I'm up here in, this isn't our country for either one of us.
No, but it's, I love it. It's a beautiful place.
I'm up here with Jonathan Newton, FLW Pro. We're up in Maine. It's cold.
It is cold.
We're not used to this kind
No,
of
we're
weather.
not.
And we're catching some bass. We got a fall pattern up here because it's cool for up here,
It
you know,
is.
that kind of stuff. And the lake's turning over.
Yes.
And so it's a little tough fishing, but we're starting to put a pattern together a little bit with a jig and some Senkos and stuff like that. Why don't you just talk, or Jonathan, let's just talk a little bit about the turnover that we have right now in this time of the year.
Well, they've already had the first frost here, and so the lake's beginning to turn over, and it colors the water up. This is usually a clear lake, and now it's got a little color to it, and the fish are, I guess it's harder for the fish to actually see your lure as good as normal, but we're finding them concentrated in some of the heavier cover, which I like fishing heavy cover, especially fishing a jig.
The turnover, does that force them to get into that cover, or do they want to back? What are they going to do? I mean, it's the fall turnover, so
right.
It messes them up, really.
Yes, it does. But it's a time for these fish coming from a clear lake to actually move shallow, because they feel a little more secure moving shallow. So that's a time of the year you can really go shallow
and get a real shallow bite.
Right.
Real shallow.
Right. I'm
bite.
talking a foot, 2 foot deep.
Jonathan, we just came up along the shoreline, and we get a lot of this, the blowdown and stuff like that. And how would you fish this? I mean, you got to really take this apart.
You really do. You can't just skip over and hit the high points and the holes. You really need to get in every place you can get back in there.
Mm-hmm.
Not just on the edge, but that's why a lot of time us guys that use jigs a lot and we use heavy line.
Mm-hmm.
We use 20-25 pound test, and it's simply for the fact I don't care if I throw it all the way to the back of there, I can get him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can, and you need to. But yeah, you have to pick this stuff apart. Sometimes it means even, I'm using a 1/2 ounce jig here.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I'll even go up to a 3/4 or a 1 ounce. If I can't penetrate that heavy cover, I'll go up a size or two. And you can do that with a tube or anything. It's not necessarily, a lot of times a bait that works. It's just the fact that you're getting something to the fish.
Right, because they'll back into there, and
right.
Well, if you drop the lure in front of it, they're not going to come out. But if you push that lure back in there,
you push it and hit them in the head, they will take it.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things a lot of guys are afraid to throw their baits in there,
right?
Because they're going to lose that jig, or they're going to lose that tube or something like that, and you have to give that up.
You give that up because you got to think, well, if I don't get the bite, I'll never have the opportunity to get the fish in. So you have to sacrifice a little bit to be able to get the most bites out of a particular piece of cover.
And one of the things that I have like a rule. It's called the 1 foot rule, and that the fish will come out about 1 foot to get it.
That's right.
And so if you put it in there and you're about a foot away from him, he's going to at least look at it.
Exactly.
And but if you're 2 or 3 feet, he's not going to bother with it. So that's important to pitch right in there and get it as close as you can.
That's the key.
And don't be afraid to lose it.
No, don't be afraid. No. There's plenty of lures out there. You can get more. This dock right here, I'm kind of excited about fishing it. It's a little bit different. We've been fishing these docks that are floating docks,
mm-hmm.
and finally got one with some poles that actually go into the bottom, and that's the type of docks I usually try to key in on,
mm-hmm.
especially before the sun gets out.
Mm-hmm.
and it just seems like they like to hold around those.
Where will
those
they
piers.
position themselves? Just way in the back, or will they be out
It
front?
just they could be in either one. I mean, you want to start and you want to work this dock from the shore out. I mean, you want to work it all and figure out exactly where they're holding. But the way the sun is now, you know, the fog's finally starting to kind of burn off, and I think you'll find these fish at like on the corners, and as the sun gets on up, you'll have to get on and under them and
pitch
catch
back
them.
up.
Right. Yeah.
Again, the difference is that this dock kicks out and it's got the poles going into the water
Right.
versus just a floating
Versus just
dock.
a floating. Yes. It's a lot more here to fish.
And of course, there's a ladder.
Of course, you got to throw out a ladder.
What is it about the ladder that attracts the fish? Do you have it?
No, I mean,
it's got more rungs and stuff that they can.
I think it's
bait
just
fish hang
extra.
around?
Yeah, I think it's just extra stuff there, you know, to maybe hold more algae and attract more bait fish, and they just something they like to sit against. Got the sun, which we've been looking for all morning, but we've moved out more in the mid lake section, and we came out to some points with a lot of rocks and some scattered grass. And these fish, you know, with the fall turnover, I mean, we can work a variety of depth range. We can go from shallow to out deeper on these rocks and key in, and that's actually what we're looking for to catch some better fish.
Because again, it's a transition, but these points, we got a little sun, but we got a little bit of shade too from where the angle we have, and they'll move on to these points. And the best thing, we have just a little bit of wind come up here on this point.
That's what we need. We need some wind.
And that would be the ticket. But again, we have some grass. And one other thing that we'll talk about when we get into it a little bit more is how to read a map to find these spots, because there's a lot of islands, but some islands are better than other islands, and you might as well eliminate some of those stuff so you fish the better water for most of the day rather than, you know, hit and miss going, oh, that's a good one, that's not.
There's a lot of, you know, you can do a lot of practicing sitting in the motel room. I mean, you can take that map like you were talking about and look at these. There's a lot of islands on this body of water, but this set of islands right here seem to be a little bit better than the other ones around it. We've got deep water, a lot deeper water. The contours are a little closer on this side, and that's why we chose this area here.
Yeah, and again, the map helped us a lot to pick out that spot, because we did see those contours. And
right.
And also, when you're up on a lake like this where there's rock shoals, a map is essential.
Yes.
Unless you want to, you know, lose that lower
You have
end.
to be careful here.
Yeah.
You
So
have
it's
to be careful.
important to read that and find out where your buoys are, and to really pay attention to that, because, you know, if you don't pay attention to that, you're not going to be fishing.
No, you don't want to run in between some of these buoys like you normally want to try to stay in between them.
Right.
Another thing you want to pay close attention to when you come into these areas like this is your depth finder. I mean, your electronics is key to letting you know what depth you need to be fishing in, and here we started out a little deeper, but we've moved into the 8 to 10 feet range, and you can cover a variety of depth. From 8 to 10 feet, you're casting up into actual 2-3 feet of water maybe, you know, and working it out and covering a big range of depth there when you do that.
And so when you're coming up on a point, that's really important to have those electronics. So again, you could be out on point and find a hump out here
Sure.
that's just loaded with fish.
Yep.
And it's important. So when you're coming up to a point on an island, or any kind of a point in essence, is to make sure that you pay attention to your depth finder, and then really that's going to be your key.
That's your key.
Yeah.
The depth finder is the only eyes you have to see under the water. So I mean, you've got
There you go.
a pretty fish too.
Yep. Again, right off